In the sweltering, incense-laden air of 19th century New Orleans, people whispered her name with a potent mix of reverence and undeniable fear. They believed she commanded spirits, that her gree-gree could heal the most stubborn ailment or cast a shadow of misfortune over an enemy's door. But what if her most profound power wasn't supernatural at all, but something far more cunning, far more human, and infinitely more pervasive? Welcome back, my friends, to a journey into the hidden corners of history. Today, we're pulling back the veil on the enigmatic life of Marie Laveau, the undisputed Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. By the end of this tale, you'll not only uncover the woman behind the legend, but also understand how she expertly wove together spiritual practices with an unmatched network of influence, forever cementing her place in the heart of a city. We uncover incredible stories like this every single week, so if you don't want to miss the next one, make sure you're subscribed right now. All right, enough talk. Let's step into the vibrant, mysterious world of Marie Laveau. To truly understand Marie Laveau, we must first understand the city that birthed her legend, New Orleans. Imagine, if you will, a city unlike any other in America. A place where the air itself felt thick with humidity and the scent of jasmine, chicory, and the muddy Mississippi River. This wasn't merely a southern city. It was a swirling, effervescent vortex of cultures, traditions, and untold stories, all simmering under the relentless Louisiana sun.
In the early 19th century, New Orleans was a city caught between worlds. It had only recently become part of the United States through the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, yet its heart remained fiercely French and Spanish. European architectural styles, with their wrought iron balconies and hidden courtyards, still dominated the French Quarter. But beneath this European veneer, a vibrant, complex, and often turbulent society was thriving. This was a major port city, bustling with activity. Goods flowed down the mighty Mississippi River from America's heartland, destined for global markets, and ships from across the Atlantic brought both wealth and new populations. By 1840, New Orleans had become the third largest city in the United States and the largest in the South, boasting a population of over 100,000 souls. The unique demographic tapestry of New Orleans was unlike almost anywhere else in America. It was home to a dominant white Creole population, proud descendants of French and Spanish colonial settlers who maintained their language, customs, and Catholic faith. Then came the influx of American settlers, bringing their own Protestant traditions and a distinct Anglo-American culture, often clashing with the established Creole ways. But perhaps the most defining and dynamic segment of New Orleans society was its large, visible population of free people of color, known as the gens de couleur libre. These individuals, often of mixed European and African heritage, formed a distinct social class. Many were educated, owned property, and worked in various professions, including carpentry, cigar making, masonry, and indeed hairdressing. Their presence spoke to a more fluid, if still deeply stratified, racial hierarchy than was found in many other American cities, a legacy of French and Spanish colonial policies that allowed for greater avenues to freedom and recognized mixed-race relationships. Layered beneath all of this were the enslaved African people, whose forced labor fueled much of the city's economy, particularly the vast sugar and cotton plantations of the surrounding region. New Orleans was the largest slave market in the country after the international slave trade ended in 1808, with countless individuals trafficked within the domestic market. It was from this crucible of cultures, French, Spanish, American, Haitian, and West African, that New Orleans voodoo truly emerged. African spiritual practices brought by enslaved individuals from West and Central Africa, syncretized with the dominant Catholicism of the French and Spanish colonists. This blend was further bolstered by the arrival of thousands of Haitian refugees, both free and enslaved, fleeing the Haitian Revolution in the early 1800s, who brought with them their own vibrant Vodou traditions.
Voodoo was not a hidden underground practice for everyone. Public gatherings, most notably in Congo Square, allowed enslaved and free black people to congregate, dance, drum, and practice their traditions, a vital space for cultural continuity amidst immense oppression. It was in this rich, volatile, and deeply spiritual environment, a city of masquerade and faith, whispered secrets and overt displays, opulence and stark poverty, European elegance and African mysticism, that Marie Laveau would forge her unparalleled influence. It was a city ripe for a queen who understood its many tongues, its many colors, and its many spirits. Laveau's origins and early life. Into this intoxicating, complex world of 19th century New Orleans, Marie Catherine Laveau was born. While some historical accounts present conflicting birth years, most widely accepted records indicate she was born on September 10, 1801, a free woman of color in the vibrant French Quarter. Her parentage itself reflects the very melting pot she would come to dominate. Her mother, Marguerite d'Arcantel, was a free woman of African, European, and Native American ancestry, while her father, Charles Laveau, was a wealthy mulatto businessman or free man of color. This mixed heritage, a common thread among the gens du couleur libre, placed her in a unique position within the city's intricate social stratification. Marie Laveau's childhood was likely spent in her maternal grandmother Catherine Henry's cottage on St. Anne Street in the French Quarter, a modest home that would later become synonymous with her legend. Growing up within these walls, surrounded by the sights, sounds, and smells of the quarter, she would have absorbed the diverse cultural currents flowing through the city. The clang of streetcar bells, the shouts of vendors in multiple languages, the distant rhythm of drums from Congo Square, and the solemn peal of the St. Louis Cathedral bells were all part of her everyday soundscape. From an early age, Marie was immersed in the Catholic faith, attending Mass regularly at St. Louis Cathedral, where she was also baptized and later married. Her home was reportedly filled with images of saints, and she maintained a devout Catholic faith throughout her life, often ministering to prisoners and urging repentance. Yet, simultaneously, she was undoubtedly exposed to the African spiritual traditions that permeated her community through her mother and grandmother, who may have been practitioners themselves. This dual religious identity, deeply Catholic yet profoundly connected to African spiritualism, would become a hallmark of her unique practice of Louisiana voodoo.
On August 4, 1819, at the age of 18, Marie Laveau married Jacques Paris, a free person of color and carpenter from Saint-Domingue, present-day Haiti. Their marriage certificate, a historical artifact in itself, is preserved in the St. Louis Cathedral. While some records are unclear, the couple reportedly had 2 daughters who tragically died in childhood. Jacques Paris himself disappears from historical records around 1822 or 1824, leading Marie to be known thereafter as the Widow Paris. This period of early loss and widowhood, even though challenging, marked a significant turning point in her life. Around 1826, Marie entered a common-law partnership with Louis Christophe Dumasnil de Glopien, a white man of French descent, a relationship that endured until his death in 1855. Interracial marriage was legally forbidden at the time, but such common-law unions were not uncommon in New Orleans. Together, Marie and Christophe had 7 children, though only 2, Marie Heloise Euchariste Glopien and Marie Philomène Glopien, are known to have survived to adulthood. This enduring partnership provided a foundation of stability, even as Marie began to step into the public sphere in an unprecedented way.
It was during this time that Marie Laveau took up the profession of hairdresser, a seemingly innocuous trade that would prove to be one of the most powerful tools in her arsenal. As she styled the hair of New Orleans' elite, white and Creole women, she gained intimate access to their homes, their secrets, and their deepest anxieties. She listened to their gossip, their marital woes, their financial concerns, and their hidden desires. This invaluable intelligence, gathered discreetly within the private chambers of the city's most influential households, would form the bedrock of her emerging power. She also worked as a nurse and midwife, further extending her reach into the lives of both the wealthy and the poor.
While the precise moment of her full emergence as the Voodoo Queen is shrouded in the mists of history and legend, it is believed that by the 1830s, Marie Laveau had already begun to assume a leadership role within New Orleans' multiracial religious community. The knowledge she gleaned from her clients, combined with her innate charisma, her deep understanding of human nature, and her synthesis of Catholic and African spiritual practices, began to transform her into the formidable figure history remembers. She was no longer just the widow Paris or a hairdresser. She was a woman whose very presence commanded attention, whose whispers held weight, and whose influence was rapidly growing to touch every corner of the city. The term voodoo itself, in the context of 19th century New Orleans, evokes a complex tapestry of beliefs and practices. It was not a single monolithic religion, but rather a vibrant, adaptable spiritual tradition brought to the New World by enslaved Africans from various West African nations, particularly the Fon, Yoruba, and Klongo peoples. These traditions, rich in ancestor reverence, spirit communication, and the use of natural elements for healing and protection, found new soil in the Crescent City. Here they began to intertwine with the dominant Catholicism of the French and Spanish colonists, creating a unique syncretic faith. Saints became associated with African spirits, or loa. Holy water mingled with natural herbs, and Catholic prayers blended seamlessly with ancestral chants. This fusion was not merely an act of survival under oppressive conditions, but a creative spiritual evolution, giving rise to a distinct form of Louisiana voodoo. However, voodoo was often practiced in secret, shrouded in mystery and fear due to societal prejudices and legal restrictions of the time. Public displays were rare, and practitioners risked severe penalties. Yet within this secretive landscape, Marie Laveau began to rise, not just as a practitioner, but as a recognized leader. Her power was multifaceted, stemming from several key elements.
First, her strategic position as a hairdresser and nurse gave her an unparalleled vantage point into the city's private lives. Imagine her carefully braiding the hair of a wealthy Creole madam, listening intently as the woman confides her husband's infidelity, her fear of financial ruin, or her desperate desire for a child. Or perhaps tending to a sick child in a humble cottage, hearing the whispered anxieties of a mother about a looming legal battle. Marie absorbed it all, the gossip, the rivalries, the hopes, the fears, the hidden desires of the powerful and the vulnerable alike. This intelligence, gathered subtly and without suspicion, provided her with an intimate understanding of the city's social dynamics, its power structures, and the personal weaknesses and strengths of its inhabitants. She knew who owed whom, who was having an affair, who harbored a secret ambition, and who desperately sought relief from a hidden ailment. This was the bedrock of her practical influence, allowing her to offer precisely the right advice, the opportune charm, or the perfectly timed prophecy. Secondly, Marie's deep understanding of human psychology, coupled with her innate charisma, allowed her to connect with people on a profound level.
She possessed a rare ability to discern anxieties and offer comfort, to instill hope where there was despair, and to project an aura of powerful assurance. People felt seen, heard, and understood in her presence. She had a keen sense for the dramatic, an essential quality for any spiritual leader. Her public rituals, particularly those held on the shores of Lake Pontchartrain or in the infamous Congo Square, became legendary. Witnesses described elaborate ceremonies under the moonlight involving drumming, dancing, chanting, and the supposed presence of her revered snake, Zombie. These gatherings, while perhaps exaggerated by later accounts, served to cement her reputation and awe her followers, drawing them deeper into her spiritual orbit.
Furthermore, Marie Laveau masterfully blended her Catholic faith with her African spiritual practices. She attended Mass regularly at St. Louis Cathedral, sometimes even standing at the very front of the church, a prominent figure in the Catholic community. Yet she also held private voodoo ceremonies in her home on St. Anne Street and conducted rituals in St. Louis Cemetery No. 1, particularly at the tomb of her mother and other family members. This duality allowed her to bridge seemingly disparate worlds, appealing to both devout Catholics and those seeking traditional African spiritual guidance. She understood that in New Orleans, these two spiritual paths were not necessarily contradictory, but could, for many, be complementary facets of a single, deeply felt spirituality. She incorporated Catholic saints into her altars, used holy water in her gree-gree, and encouraged her clients to pray novenas while also performing specific voodoo rites. This syncretism made her accessible to a broad spectrum of the population and enhanced her legitimacy in the eyes of many. Her reputation grew not just from her insights, but from the perceived efficacy of her work. She was sought out for everything from healing illnesses and finding lost lovers to ensuring success in legal disputes and even influencing political outcomes. People believed in her power because they witnessed results, or at least they believed they did. A successful business deal, an unexpected inheritance, a rival's misfortune, a lover's return, all could be attributed to Marie Laveau's intervention. She cultivated this reputation carefully, understanding that a perception of power often created actual power. Her emergence as the Voodoo Queen, therefore, was not a singular event, but a gradual, deliberate consolidation of influence built upon a foundation of social intelligence, spiritual acumen, and an undeniable force of personality. By the 1830s, the whispers had turned to shouts, and her name was on the lips of nearly everyone in New Orleans, from the grandest mansions to the humblest slave quarters. She was, quite simply, the most powerful spiritual figure in the city. With her reputation firmly established, Marie Laveau's influence grew to touch every conceivable corner of New Orleans society. Her clientele was remarkably diverse, a true reflection of the city's unique melting pot of cultures. She served not only the free people of color and enslaved individuals, who were the bedrock of Voodoo's following, but also the most prominent white and Creole families, planters, merchants, lawyers, politicians, and even judges. It's hard to imagine a more comprehensive cross-section of society seeking the counsel of a single woman, especially one operating in a spiritual sphere often viewed with suspicion by the dominant culture. Yet they came to her, driven by a myriad of human needs and desires that transcended social standing and racial divides.
Why did they seek her out? The reasons were as varied and complex as the human heart itself. Wealthy ladies sought charms to ensure their husbands' fidelity or to secure advantageous marriages for their daughters. Businessmen consulted her for success in lucrative deals or to thwart rivals. Politicians, entangled in the intricate web of New Orleans' political landscape, came to her for favorable outcomes in elections or legal battles. Enslaved individuals facing unimaginable hardship looked to her for protection from cruel masters, for strength, or for a glimpse of freedom. Lovers, whether forbidden or uncertain, sought her guidance in matters of the heart, hoping for a love potion or a spell to reignite a fading passion. The sick,
abandoned by conventional medicine, came seeking her herbal remedies and spiritual healing. Even criminals desperate to evade justice purportedly sought her help, hoping she could fix a jury or influence a judge. Marie's services were equally diverse. She dispensed gris-gris bags, small cloth pouches containing specific herbs, roots, bones, and other items, imbued with spiritual power for protection, luck, or specific outcomes. She provided potent herbal potions for healing or other purposes. Her readings and divinations were legendary. Clients would receive insights into their future, warnings about potential dangers, or advice on how to navigate complex situations. She could offer a fixing for almost any problem, whether it was amending a broken relationship, securing a debt, or gaining an advantage in a court case. Her methods often involved practical advice disguised as spiritual instruction, leveraging her vast network of informants and her deep understanding of human nature.
Perhaps one of the most compelling aspects of Marie Laveau's influence was her tireless charitable work. During devastating yellow fever epidemics that frequently swept through New Orleans, she was known to nurse the sick, often at great personal risk, regardless of their race or social standing. She visited prisoners in their cells, offering spiritual comfort, food, and even legal advice where she could. She cared for the poor and the marginalized, providing aid and comfort when no one else would. This humanitarian work endeared her to many, fostering a deep loyalty and respect that went beyond her spiritual prowess. It presented a public image of a compassionate healer and caregiver, which provided a crucial counterpoint to the more sensationalized and often fear-mongering narratives surrounding voodoo. This duality, the feared sorceress and the revered saintly figure, allowed her to navigate the complex social landscape of New Orleans with remarkable agility. Marie Laveau, therefore, was not merely a voodoo priestess. She was a master strategist, a shrewd businesswoman, a social worker, a confidant, and a powerful community leader. She understood the intricate dance of power in New Orleans, and she played it with an unparalleled skill, making her the true Voodoo Queen, a figure whose influence was as vast as the Mississippi River itself, touching every life, every secret, and every dream within the vibrant, often turbulent heart of the city. Marie Laveau, the undisputed Voodoo Queen of New Orleans, wove herself so deeply into the fabric of the city's spirit that her life, already extraordinary, continued to evolve into legend even after her passing. The end of her physical journey, much like her life, remains enveloped in a delicate veil of mystery and folklore, adding to her enduring allure. On June 15, 1881, it was widely reported that Marie Laveau died peacefully in her St. Anne Street home, surrounded by her family. Accounts from the time suggest her funeral was a significant event, attended by a diverse cross-section of New Orleans society, from the most prominent citizens to the humblest, all paying their last respects. This public mourning underscored the profound impact she had on the city. Yet, almost immediately, the line between historical fact and captivating myth began to blur.
For some, Marie Laveau simply vanished from public life around the 1870s, leading to speculation and whispers even before her official demise. It's believed that one of her daughters, also named Marie Laveau, may have continued some of her mother's work, leading to confusion and the pervasive idea of Marie Laveau II. This second Marie Laveau, whether a single individual or a composite of successors carrying on the legacy, further complicated the historical record, allowing the legend to grow, seemingly unhindered by the constraints of a single mortal life. This phenomenon fed into the notion that Marie Laveau was perhaps immortal, or that her spirit simply continued to walk the streets of New Orleans, defying the finality of death. Today, the most tangible symbol of her enduring presence is her alleged tomb in St. Louis Cemetery No. 1. This labyrinthine city of the dead, with its unique above-ground tombs, feels like a fitting resting place for such an enigmatic figure.
Visitors from across the globe flocked to her crypt, the Glopion family tomb, drawn by the mystique of the Voodoo Queen. The tradition persists. People mark the tomb with 3 X's, turn around 3 times, knock, and whisper a wish, believing that Marie Laveau, even in death, possesses the power to grant their petitions. If the wish is granted, tradition dictates returning to circle the X and leave an offering. However, the historical accuracy of this specific tomb being her final resting place has been a subject of some debate among scholars, though cemetery records generally point to the Glopion family crypt. Regardless, the sheer volume of X marks and offerings on the tomb speaks volumes about the power of belief and the enduring hold Marie Laveau has on the public imagination. It became such a pervasive practice that in 2014, due to concerns about damage to the delicate historic tomb, a fine was implemented for defacing it, and now access to the cemetery itself often requires a guided tour. The veil of mystery surrounding Marie Laveau is not merely about the specifics of her death or burial. It permeates every aspect of her narrative. How much of what we know is verifiable history, and how much is embellished folklore passed down through generations? Her story was often sensationalized by outsiders who frequently misrepresented voodoo practices and portrayed her as a sinister sorceress rather than the benevolent healer and community leader she was largely seen as by her followers. The narratives that paint her as all-powerful, sometimes vengeful witch often reflect more about society's fascination with mysticism and power than the nuanced reality of her life.
This blurring of lines between truth and legend has allowed Marie Laveau's figure to transcend simple historical biography and become something far grander, a cultural archetype. Her story is a testament to the power of a single individual to shape perception, to challenge social norms, and to leave an indelible mark that time and even death cannot fully erase. The mystery is not a weakness in her legacy, but rather a vital component that fuels her continued relevance. Even today, more than a century after her passing, Marie Laveau's spirit undeniably continues to ripple through New Orleans. She is no longer just a historical figure, she is an omnipresent cultural icon, her name synonymous with the city's unique mystique. Her influence extends far beyond the confines of voodoo, permeating the very soul of New Orleans. Her presence is keenly felt in the vibrant tapestry of the city's tourism. Ghost tours weave her into their narratives, and voodoo shops proudly display her image, selling grease and charms inspired by her legacy. She is celebrated in literature, from historical novels to contemporary fantasy, and has been famously depicted in popular television shows, further cementing her place in the global imagination. Musicians have penned songs in her honor, and artists capture her enigmatic likeness, ensuring that her image, whether historically accurate or mythologized, remains eternally etched in the public consciousness. But why does Marie Laveau continue to captivate people worldwide? Her enduring appeal lies in the potent blend of her historical reality and the rich mythology that has grown around her. She represents a powerful nexus of various cultures, African, European, and Native American, a true product of the New Orleans melting pot. Her story embodies themes of resilience, female empowerment, and social justice. In a society that sought to marginalize and oppress, Marie Laveau rose to a position of immense influence, challenging racial and social hierarchies through intelligence, compassion, and spiritual authority. She provided a voice and a source of aid for those who had none, making her a champion for the poor and disenfranchised. Marie Laveau's legacy is, in many ways, the enduring spirit of New Orleans itself. A city built on resilience, steeped in mystery, and fiercely proud of its unique cultural identity. She embodies the defiance against convention, the embrace of the spiritual, and the profound sense of community
that defines this extraordinary place. Her story reminds us that power can manifest in many forms, not just through political might or economic wealth, but through compassion, wisdom, and an unwavering connection to the unseen forces that guide human existence. Whether one views her as a saint, a sorceress, or a shrewd businesswoman, Marie Laveau remains a captivating enigma, a powerful matriarch whose influence transcends time. Her whispers can still be heard in the rustle of the magnolia leaves, her presence felt in the humid New Orleans air, a timeless reminder of the Voodoo Queen, whose spirit, though veiled in mystery, continues to reign over the Crescent City. As night descends upon the ancient streets of the Vieux Carré, and the scent of night-blooming jasmine mingles with the humid air, one might still catch the faint rhythmic whisper of a drum, or imagine the fleeting glimpse of a vibrant tignon disappearing around a shadowed corner. Marie Laveau is not simply a historical figure, a name etched into a tomb in St. Louis Cemetery No. 1. She is woven into the very fabric of New Orleans, a living legend whispered from generation to generation. Her story, a blend of verifiable fact and fantastical lore, reminds us that true influence is not always loud or overt, but can be a quiet, persistent force, a guiding hand in the shadows, connecting the seen with the unseen. She stands as a testament to the power of belief, the resilience of the human spirit, and the enduring magic of a city that cherishes its mysteries. In a world that often seeks to categorize and confine, Marie Laveau remains gloriously uncontainable, a queen whose reign, in the heart and soul of New Orleans, continues unbroken by time. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the captivating world of Marie Laveau. If her story stirred something within you, and you wish to explore more forgotten tales and delve into the enigmas of history, please consider subscribing to Whisper Veil. Your support helps us continue to bring these narratives to life. And while you are here, perhaps another story from our collection calls to you from the depths of time. Until next time, may your own path be filled with wonder and discovery.